the question with the involvement of President Trump, you have to remember that the PGA Tour had an event at Trump Doral and pulled it. And while not in office, again, I'm paraphrasing from memory, then former President Donald Trump, current president now, said akin to that the PGA Tour was very, very unloyal, something along those lines. It's very close if that's not an exact quote. I'm not mentioning it in the effort to get the quote dead on. I'm mentioning it in the effort of getting the emotions dead on, because maybe these fences have already been mended between the PGA Tour and the, once again, President of the United States. But at the very least, it sounds to me if they haven't, then the first thing they have to do is kind of go up there and the mea culpa, the whole thing, that's this is good for the game at large. And I wonder what it could mean moving forward, as Rex was talking about, and as I mentioned before the sound, vis-a-vis with the impact it could have on the Department of Justice and what the mindset is there at Department of Justice. I'm also curious on another level if whoever has been involved in reviewing this, if there has been that activity, that's not something that I've heard anything about. But if there has been someone that has taken on that role, is that someone still there? And what can a new administration, and in particular, what can the administration of a person that Rex referred to as quote unquote end quote a golf guy have on these proceedings? And I would agree with him that the indication would be, again, to coin the phrase, the cliche, from the outside looking in, it would seem to me that it would be helpful in the progression of the same. So Scott O'Neill is the new CEO of LIV, and he was asked in that same press conference, what do you make of this and the reports that the two parties are getting closer?
PIF, they're the investor and creator of LIV, okay? PIF is a sovereign wealth fund of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and they are likely to make an investment into PGA Tour Enterprises, okay, a new structure that a collection of U.S. investors invested in. And so for us at LIV, we're hoping that unlocks opportunity. That may unlock opportunity with markets, with courses, with marketing partners, with television networks, with growing the game, with competition opportunities, with new formats. But we're pretty, I grew up in New York, if you haven't been able to tell so far by my funny accent. And the state motto is Excelsior, which means kind of onwards and upwards, effectively. And we're very excited about the potential investment with PIF and PGA Tour Enterprises. But I will tell you, it's been a short 40 days here, but in the 40 days, I've seen a U.S. agreement with Fox, broadcast agreement. I've seen a UK agreement with ITV to get us over the air in the UK. It's the only golf that will be over the air in the UK. I've seen our first pillar partnership with Madden. I've seen Stars extended. I've seen a successful event in Riyadh. I've seen interest from all over the world. We're now our broadcast in 100 countries and territories, over 800 million households. So I see momentum, and you don't have to look too far from here to feel like we're going to have the largest event in the history of LIV Golf here, right here in Adelaide. So from my perspective, we have incredible interest with television broadcast networks, which has been a bit of a Achilles heel for us. Sponsors, marketing partners, as we call them, seems to be interest that the group has never seen before. Attendance seems to be something that's going in this trajectory. And so I'm excited about the agreement. I think that right now we are going to the moon and back. And I hope that'll help as an accelerant, but I'm very confident in where we are in this business and the interest we have currently.
Okay, that's Scott O'Neill, the new CEO of LIV. Dom, I'm curious what we're getting in from the world today. I haven't asked you if you did a question of the day. Sometimes I'll ask him before we go on the air. More times than not, I don't because we're too busy doing other stuff. Did you happen to do one relative to this, and if you have not, can you share with me anything you're getting back from the people?
Yes to all of your questions. The first question, the question of the day, is as follows and is heavily related to this. Do you expect a deal to be struck between PIF and the PGA Tour in 2025? Yes, no, or a third option, yes, but not this year. Right now, 67% are saying, yeah, they're fully expecting a deal to come together this year. 30% say no, and 4% say, yeah, it's going to happen, but it's going to take longer. And the stuff coming in, there's a lot of heavy discussion about Adelaide this week on LIV, which is a huge event for them. They traditionally have a lot of people showing up. Andrew's rolling some video there of the staging that they have. It's probably their most popular event. That might be a stretch for me to say that just out front like that, but I think it probably is their most popular event. I know last year was the most well-attended event on their tour. So there's some people talking about that. And then there's some more stuff coming in about what we're talking about with the deal. Rocky says, no deal. LIV does not need the PGA Tour. LIV is going to end up signing with the DP World Tour, the Asia Tour, or something like that.
They could own the DP World Tour if they wanted to.
Again, for clarity, though, to be fair, it's not a deal with LIV. It's a deal with PIF. Like Scott O'Neill was just explaining, the Sovereign Wealth Fund and the LIV's underneath there, and it's an investment. It's a little more complex than just, deal with LIV and PGA. That's not really what it is. It's an investment from the PIF in PGA Tour Enterprises. So it's a little bit more complex than that. Derek writes, I am with Rocky, who just said no deal. I believe that the LIV Tour should merge with the DP World Tour. O'Neill thinks there's a lot of momentum, someone else writes, with all the TV deals that are coming up, as which he mentioned in his clip there. So I really don't see LIV going away. And then Paul writes, LIV will never be short of funding, which is at the base of all of this. Now, no other context for that other than to say that that's probably a true statement. What that means for the future, I don't know. But there's still stuff coming in. It's 68% yes now. I mean, what I think is the interesting aspect to all of this, Matt, is, and maybe you disagree, I fully anticipate some deal happening this year. I think the expectation at this point is that it's going to happen. That's not interesting to me. What's interesting to me is, what does it look like? What does it mean for the LIV Tour? What does it mean for the PGA Tour? What does it mean for a player who left like Bryson, who both sides want? Right. Both sides want Bryson DeChambeau.
That's the
so
ideal. What
does the new deal look like? How would it be structured? Is there a right way to do it, Matt?
I mean, there's the most hopeful way. The right way is going to be defined by what's going on politically. Will the Department of Justice dig their heels in and say, no, this would represent whatever terminology is utilized to justify a position, a monopoly, or some form of collusion, an exclusion of competition, et cetera, whatever way they approach it. But I think the highest and best would be, because I got a couple comments. One of them I want to back up on about Australia in a second here. But the first one would be, how do we get the best players in the world together a few more times? Presumably, we're going to do that at the majors, and I think it has strengthened the majors because of the rarity of seeing the best and the best on the same stage at the same time again. But I don't see that diminishing by giving us other opportunities. And the question would be, what would those opportunities be? When and where would those opportunities be? Which brings me to the point that I wanted to make about Australia. How crazy would it be if LIV decided to declare Australia, this event, as a LIV major. Now, as I say that, people around the world just spit out their morning coffee or their afternoon tea. Some. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is that on the men's side of the game, they've been very careful, the tour now, they've been very delicate not to declare the players as a major. Right? This idea of time will determine what is a major and what is not a major. Okay. That's your tour. That's that tour. Didn't have that same approach in PGA Tour champions. Majors were declared. Didn't have that same approach on the LPGA. Majors have been declared. So from that standpoint, and you may look at it and go, well, that's why those majors don't have the same draw, the same interest, the same everything as the majors that evolved over time. Okay, fine. The one thing you can't do is advance the evolution of time. I get it. But this is a brand new tour, and this would be an opportunity. Right now, 3 of the 4 majors on the men's side of the game are in the United States. The last major, there's only 4, the last one is in the UK. That's it. What about other places? What if LIV declared this as their major and they said, yeah, it's going to be here in Australia? Now, they could leave themselves the caveat to say, we may move it to other parts of the world. And that if you want me to continue down this road of madness, what if LIV said, because we're making this a major, it's our league, it's our bat, it's our ball, we're going to change our own playing field, and we're going to make it an open. We're going to open it up. I don't know what field size they want. 156, 120, whatever, something. And then they use their massive resources, and all of a sudden you've got this major, this LIV major, all right? And I get it. I know you're going to get, I know, Dom, right now, I can't even see it, and I guarantee you there are messages pouring in going, well, it's not a major just because you say it is. Okay, fine. Then put the word LIV in front of it. And if it's a LIV major, whether you diminish it as having no value or whether you say it's got legitimacy, that's up to you. All I'm saying is they could declare it a LIV major. They could go down this path that I described as madness in the minds of many, but I look at it and go, why not? There was a time when the prospect of this league would have been considered madness. And if you really go back and do the history of the idea of having team sport introduced into the game of golf, the conversation started before LIV, and that was just kind of absorbed, right? And maybe obviously there'd be a team component there. Don't know. I mean, it's a blank canvas. But what I was getting at is, what if you use your massive resources, and now that it's an open, which means you can get other players, and you put together a purse that the world of golf has never seen before. I get it. A lot of people right now would tell me I'm absolutely insane. But the whole thing we've heard from LIV from the beginning is that part of their stated agenda is to capitalize on a thirst, a desire, a need to have golf in markets that either don't have it at all or they have it as a glancing blow. You know, there was a time when the Australian Open was considered the 5th major. Familiar terminology now on the PGA Tour. Right? For the likes of people that didn't do a tremendous amount of traveling compared to the guys that were out there grinding away every week, like a Jack Nicklaus, used to go down to Australia all the time because it was that important. It wasn't the only one, but I'm just saying, as an example. What do you think, Dom? What are the people saying to that? My own crazy idea.
The Australian Open used to be classed as a semi-major. Who's Who of Golf had their name on the trophy. The kind of events you're talking about. LIV Golf Michigan this year will be as big as Adelaide. Mark my words. A fifth major is where a deal with the DP World Tour and LIV would work.
Okay.
The PGA Tour will say that the Players is a fifth major, but the fifth major must be outside the United States.
I think it should be. In fairness, it should be.
If there is a merger with the PGA Tour, what I foresee happening is the fall series goes away and LIV's season happens at that time of the year. So it's like the tour to August and then LIV after that. That's the idea here.
Unless it's a co-sanctioned event on multiple tours, but yeah.
The whatever solution transpires, it cannot be a U.S. only solution.
Well, as I was just saying, I don't
yeah.
think that's what LIV's intention would be, because their intention is, and it's bearing fruit as we're seeing this week in Australia, is to bring golf into these markets that want it and don't get enough of it.
Yeah, well, that's what LIV has been trying to do. I think a lot of the Andrew, do we have the schedule somewhere for this year's LIV events? I think we do. See if you can get that up. Andrew's going to work on that. Shows you where they are this year, because I actually do think they have some new locations this year on their schedule. The current question of the day, which is tying into all of this, is do you expect a deal to be struck between PIF and the PGA Tour this year in 2025? Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of responses coming in. If you go to our YouTube page, whether you're listening or watching right now, you can be a part of this conversation and vote. Yes is at 64% now, and no at 30%. So, I mean, I wouldn't you be surprised, Matt, if a deal did not happen this year?
Yeah, that's why I always wonder.
It's going to happen.
I always wondered. And when we used to do this kind of stuff on the radio side, I always qualified it. The 30% that are saying no, are you saying no because you think that's what's going to happen? Or are you saying no because that's what you want to happen? Because they're two different things.
If I'm being honest, certainly there's no way to know the answer to that question, Matt. But if I'm being honest, I would imagine the answer is in the middle. I think some of the folks answering are probably like, no, it's never going to happen. And some of them are like, no, it can't happen.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, because you have...
Andrew, put the schedule up there.
You have two parties. You have two parties that are actively engaged in negotiations to make something happen. Why would we presume then that they're not going to be able to?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're looking there,
and remember,
watching
the
now, you
DP
can see
World Tour,
the schedule
as far as we know, we think that they're somehow involved too. Not sure, but we think they are.
Well, there's a huge percentage of the DP World Tour that is under the PGA Tour umbrella, is it not?
No. The tour invested in European Tour Productions in order to have their hook someplace in terms of a common engagement. But the DP World Tour they can still make independent decisions. They're not.
Andrew, put that back up there for me. We were just talking about the schedule. Andrew had it up there.
Yes.
So this international stuff, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 United States-based events on that schedule this year, and you can see new, quote unquote, in the schedule this year: Indianapolis, Korea, Mexico City, and Riyadh, which just took place. So, I mean, they're certainly doing the international thing, but there's a lot of U.S.-based events there, Matt.
Well, the largest golf market in the world is the United States. But
well, I was just going to say that the PGA Tour does not have no international events.
That's correct.
They do go to other parts of the world.
And so does the DP World Tour. It's just a question in terms of how you do it, where you do it, how often you do it, with whom you do it. There's all types of different questions there. The PGA Tour is clearly a U.S.-based, a U.S.-centric tour, which is fine.
Let me ask you.
But if LIV is looking to tap into what they feel is a latent demand for golf in these other regions, this week would serve as an example to say, yeah, it's there.
Let me ask you a question, Matt. Do you think that in order for golf to continue to improve its ratings across all the leagues and tours, whatever, do you think that this deal, however it settles, that the best players need to play in an event or events that are outside of the majors every year? In order for things to survive and be better and grow.
Well, I wouldn't say survive. That's too
whatever,
serious.
but like Brooks and Rory have to play in 8 or 10 additional events on whatever tour in whatever capacity outside of the majors.
I don't see the number being that big, but I also think that just like our conversation about Adelaide becoming something bigger by their definition, that you could be creative. So it's possible that they could be represented in some type of team competition as well as an individual competition under the LIV structure. It could be my view is that we have the 4 majors where we're going to get the stars of the game together every year. I see it to my way of thinking. I see maybe 4 events beyond that. Where
what do you see those being under a particular umbrella?
Well, I was just saying,
just some
I think
new umbrella.
It could be a mix. If the 2 leagues end up being distinct and or separate and distinct, yet combined under a common umbrella, then I could see that it could be a cross thing, where like a co-sanction, but it's a cross thing, where I was just explaining a crazy concept, right? But why not let some of the PGA Tour guys come over and there's a team element involved there? I don't know how to do all that. It is way beyond me in terms of the complications, because the teams that are part of LIV right now are designed to be something that's going to build equity as separate entities underneath the league's umbrella. But maybe there's some way to combine that. And I'm saying that because I think it would be really cool and really fun if we saw that on a 4-man team level. Again, that's not the only option. The other options are straight up stroke play of the best and the best get together. I could also see some, call them made for TV stuff where perhaps it's a much more limited field. Maybe it's a match play type format. Call it, like a Ryder Cup type format that could exist as well. So I think I'd like to see some real creativity used, so that A, I think we need to see the best of the best get together more often, and B, can we see them get together in perhaps some formats that are non-traditional, but at the same time, I'd still like to see them get together in some formats that are traditional on top of the majors. So I think everybody's going to look at it the same way and go, yeah, that's the highest and best use. That's what we need to do. We need to get It's funny because at times people talk like sports, professional sports, is something other than entertainment. And I get it from a standpoint of lineage and tradition and in comparison to all-time great records and watching the ascent of a player who you never heard of before that becomes a great, great player on the world stage, etc. And I love all that too. But when it comes right down to it, if your sport is not entertaining, if you don't have the people engaged because they want to see how this young upstart performs against Jack Nicklaus at their height, then you're going to have diminishing returns. And I do think that we have that. So a balance has to be found. Anyways, yes, a long-winded answer to your question.
It is a long answer. The only comments I would have is that I think that especially us golfers, the people watching this program, you and me, who are so sort of entrenched in the day-to-day of this, and you mentioned the word entertainment, I do think that a lot of all of this gets lost in the mix. I think a vast majority of sports fans not only don't care about this, but are unaware of what's going on. And if Brooks and Rory and Bryson and Spieth and whoever are going to be in the same event all of those people that don't care and don't know are going to tune in. And they don't care.
It's possible, but if they don't care,
they don't care who has it or what under umbrella it is.
But let me take this one step
relevance.
further. If you're going to make a statement and say that the non-core, which is essentially who you're talking about, and I realize that it's likely that it's a core audience.
Yeah, but isn't that who everyone's chasing? The non-core? Isn't that who's being chased?
But if the
right now?
non-core doesn't know, right? I believe that's a terminology you said. Maybe you said doesn't care. I can't remember.
Both. I think the answer is both.
Okay, if they don't know, and if they don't care, then why are the television ratings going down?
For which tour? For all the tours?
Well, I can't judge. LIV, they just started on Fox. I just said that on Monday. It's unfair to judge their ratings based upon first event, weird hours, FS2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we do have a standard of comparison on the PGA Tour, and yes, much has been made of the highlights when the ratings have gone up, like Rory, et cetera. I get it, but as a body of work over the last couple of years, we have seen a diminishment by significant percentages in the viewership on television of golf, live golf. Why?
Well, that question is incredibly complicated, and
but
I've got
I'm
a million
asking it in the
answers for
context of what you said. If you're saying that the people on the periphery outside the core are unaffected, don't know, don't care, then that tells me that the people you're losing are the core.
Yes, but I'm unconcerned about the core. If you're a core golfer or a core golf fan, right, and you know what's going on and you're exhausted by it, you will come back when it's Brooks versus Rory down the stretch at an event. It doesn't have to be a major, any event. That person will come back immediately. It's like, watching, Michael Jordan versus Patrick Ewing in a big basketball game in the 90s. Like, people are just going to gravitate and tune in to watch this thing that is legendary. So if you put all those players together, people will watch. And my argument is, when I say people don't know, don't care, my argument is, if you put, it doesn't matter what the umbrella is. There's too much is made of the umbrella. It doesn't matter what umbrella it's under or who's in charge or who the operator is. If you put all those players in an event of consequence that matters, not an exhibition, there'll be a lot more people tuning into that event. Now, another layer of this that is not being discussed is, depending on the distribution partner and what time of day and what day of week this event is being held, or events, that dramatically impacts how many people are able to watch. So when you're talking about LIV, no offense, in the United States, if you put it on FS2, which is, if you're watching us internationally, you don't know, but FS2 is not a giant network. It's hard to find. Not a lot of people have it. It's like an ancillary channel. It's like channel 1, 2, 3. It's like number 3. And you're putting it on at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, the ratings are going to be not great at that time in the United States on that particular channel, no matter what you put on television. Not LIV Golf, anything. It doesn't matter. And the same can be said for example, with TGL. You put TGL on ESPN in the United States in prime time on a Monday night, you're going to get a good number. I looked up these numbers, and I did some digging and asked some questions. If you look at, let's take 1 week in particular, I think it was 800-something thousand people watched. I was told that number on ESPN in that window on that day traditionally is 500,000 to 600,000. It's ESPN, it's network, it's primetime. You're going to get 500,000 or 600,000 people watching that event, or any event. You can put anything, put a college basketball game, doesn't matter. You're going to get that number. So the additional number of 800 whatever thousand, that's the boost from whatever the event is you put in that particular location. So the events that we're talking about, Matt, where you bring all these players together, it's going to matter a lot what network it's on and what time of day and week it's on. Because if you do this event that I'm talking about and you put it on FS2 at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, it's going to get crappy ratings. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if Tiger's playing. Everyone's working. It's a bad channel. It's a bad time. It has to be placed appropriately to get a good number. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. When he says a bad channel, he's talking about household reach as compared to FS1.
Yes,
or
that's
Fox,
what I mean. Yes, sorry. I'm not being disparaging. I
for the
apologize.
comparison. No, it's just trying to define what it means. You're still talking about a national television network. It's just a question of how it compares relative to the two other big systems of distribution that Fox owns. The primary one, of course, being the network. So it's all compelling stuff. It's all interesting stuff.